Blossom is well acquainted to saying goodbye. She is at peace with her rather solitary life on her family farm until one Hallows Eve, where she receives a visit from someone she never got to properly say goodbye to, and the walls that she has built around her heart are torn open. This game was created for the Spooktober Visual Novel Jam 2023. It's part of the same setting as my first game, Lovewood, but you don't need pre-knowledge to understand and enjoy the story of living with ghosts. Well, that's interesting. I'm gonna play this. Hello, everybody. My name is Apple Phoenix, and welcome to Living with Ghosts. Now, the link can be found down there in the description down below. I read the description of this game, as you just saw, and it looks interesting, so I'm going to see what happens. With this music, I can already tell that I'm going to feel things, so if you have issues with dealing with stuff like what was in the description, you can click off and no one will think anything less of you for that, because these topics are sensitive and I'm looking forward to trying this game. I'm hoping that it works, everything works, and let me go into the options windowed. Okay. Okay. Alright. Alright. Let's go. So if you want to check out the opening performance next month, we'll keep a free seat for you. It'll be really fun, I promise. Of course I want to see it. I'll ask if one of the guys, if they take care of the critters for me, then I can make a trip to the city. Can't miss those baffled looks from the audience, after all. Oh yeah, they're gonna wonder how we can change our costumes so fast, hehe. Come on, we gotta make sure we don't miss that carriage back. I'm coming, I'm coming. Take care, guys. Remember, it's a night of mischief. Corson will be the ones causing the mischief, hehe. See you soon, sis. House was generally quiet, but it only ever felt as such shortly after the twins had taken their leave. They had the habit of filling every moment with so much liveliness and fun that the absence of it was all the more noticeable. It's never lasted long, however, as Blossom went on with her evening routine and the silence was filled by her own thoughts. Truly, her life was an inexpugnable fortress of habits and chores. It was what kept her going, and she took pride in it. And still she felt a weight of loneliness on her heart when she eventually lay down to sleep. It didn't keep her from dozing off, as solitude was a familiar bedside companion. Wasn't any blunt, sudden sound that woke up Blossom that night. No shrieking or bumping, no scraping or wailing. The sound that lured her from sleep was a soft, gentle humming. It came from outside as if someone on the veranda was singing into the night. Who could it be, and why did the melody sound so familiar? Once her drowsy mind made the first active effort to think, she shivered. Of course she recognized the lullaby. She had heard it many times when she was a child. When she was playing between the peonies, rubbing bay leaf between her fingers, or when she was comforted in strong, soft arms, she had heard it. Blossom rose, and she walked towards the door to the backyard with slow, soft steps. She had to investigate the sound. If her suspicion was right, she would later regret it if she didn't look. She stepped out into the backyard, Blossom's bright breath caught in her throat. Mom? Sweetheart, want to sit with me for a bit? Blossom pinched herself in the hand hard. Yeah. It wasn't a dream, sure enough, she was really here. Mother was sitting in the garden chair, her favorite spot. The veranda was illuminated by a white glow like pale fire, the bright flame of a heart. Whether through fate or rare coincidence, her spirit had slipped over into the physical realm. There was a faint transparency to her form, like opal or frosted glass. Yet she looked healthy and so alive, so present, just how Blossom remembered her from her childhood, before the illness began. Before... Come on, join me for a bit. Yeah. She approached very carefully, as if any clumsy noise would cause this whole scene to pop like a bubble. Are you done with homework? Yes. She was done with homework. She had been done with homework for 5 years. Was she not aware that she looked different, that she was older? So how are you? Good, I'm fine as long as things are peaceful around here. It really is nice to be able to sit outside. It's getting a bit chilly, though. It's just autumn, isn't it? Cool night air was biting at Blossom's ankles with how she was only dressed in her pajamas, but she knew better than to leave and fetch a jacket. True, how about we make an apple pie later? We have so many good ones in storage now. They're best to eat when they're fresh. Sure. Blossom blinked with realization her mom didn't know what state she was in. To her, this was just any regular day. How much did she remember? Where's your pa? Is he busy right now? Yeah, he's out doing another soil examination. Go figure, he really can't leave his dirt alone. And the twinsies? They're sleeping. Suits them, haha. I really hope they're not always going to leave you all the tough work around here. That would hardly be fair. Blossom swallowed and fidgeted with her pajamas. None of these things she had said was a lie exactly. She could assume her brothers were asleep at this hour of the night, but they were not here. They were out to act the hell out of the theater hall in Pittsburgh every week, living their dream. And her father, well, he couldn't really leave his dirt alone. It was why he had left as well, because you can only examine the same patch of soil that many times before it gets to you. Each letter he sent was filled with joy to pursue his occupation out there, to be granted that chance. Blossom was still here, the only one who was still in Libwald. The only one who could witness this. Her mother had changed, it was true. The eyes that she had known to be deep and covered in brown were now swirling vortexes of blue with an almost vacant gaze. Yet it was so unmistakably her. Like a familiar smell or the sight of dappled light underneath a tree, the resemblance to her living form was as inescapable as a memory. How was Blossom supposed to keep her composure when her mind was racing with so many things she wanted to say, things that had been brewing in her mind for years? Speak, come on, you can do it. Are you alright, dear? Yes. You look as if there's something on your mind. You know you can tell me. How easily she saw through her. Listen, I'd forgotten what it was like to have someone there who saw her so clearly and attentively, so inescapably. If only she were as good of an actor as her brothers. Remember her warm spring days when her mom was ironing out the creases in her soul, very lovingly, even carefully straightening out a crumpled collar. Why was she now hiding what was on her mind? Didn't she owe her honesty? Speak. Do something bad if you don't want to tell me. And her brow was creased with worry. Oh dear, is it something with the Saleh boy? He can stay over if it's getting worse for him at home. It's not that. Some clutched onto her pants, enough for her knuckles to brighten. She had to talk, she had to. Her chest was going to tear apart if she didn't. Speak. I'm sorry I couldn't save you. I love you, Mom. She squeezed the words out of herself as if they'd be the last one she could ever say. Reached out a hand towards her and paused. Looked at her translucent palm, the slow realization making its way across her face. Finally, acceptance of the unavoidable reality of herself. The veil had been lifted. She couldn't hold herself together at the sight. It was painful. It was relieving in its finality. The rose slapping on non-existent dust from respectable clothes and approached. Why are you crying, love? Because I missed you. You two love so much. And I'm sorry. It's alright. Blossom meant it, but it didn't sound very convincing. You didn't want any of it to happen. It's not your fault, none of that. I know, but I'm still sorry. Sorry that I had to leave, and I'm sorry that I'll have to leave again. You sure that you can't say? She sighed deeply, and her next words were barely a whisper. I'm so sorry. Blossom's throat felt too tight to speak. She simply put her arms around her mother's glassy form, wishing that she could hold her in this world like this. I want to sit with you on the veranda tomorrow again, talk about the birds, make some lunch out of those pumpkins. And I'll hold your hand when we go run errands in town. I don't want you to be alone. It's not fair. This was torture. Could she hold her now, and yet have no power to keep her here? So utterly powerless. Gently the spirit lifted a hand to her daughter's cheek, and Blossom leaned into the touch. She could see the damp, glistening leaves of ivy through her mother's chest. I can't hold on much longer. I'm slipping. Restraining from much more than just sadness now, the effort of reform being disagreement with this world. I love you so much, my baby. And I'm so proud of you. I love you too, Mom. Please be good. She interrupted herself with a wet chuckle. What am I saying? I know you'll be. You'll be amazing. You already are. Blossom squeezed her tightly, even as she felt the form become lighter in her arms. It was what she would have wanted to do those many years ago, to hold on to her desperately, uselessly. To not be doomed to wait in front of a doctor's office. Eventually, her entire form had faded to mist. The light disappeared, and Blossom found herself alone, as if the whole experience had been a dream. Exactly what she had always been afraid of. To be left alone in the dark. She sank towards the embrace of the earth and whispered words to the ground, hoping they could reach to the other side. I love you, Mom. I love you. It spilled from her lips like a mantra. At least now she was free to feel. To embrace the grief and the cold and the salty taste of tears. This was it. She would never see her mom again. Gone for good. She pressed her numb fingers into the grass. Grass which had been so lush during the summer, but was now hanging down flat like messy wet hair. There was so much she could have told her, so much that had been on her mind. But they had only ended up talking about normal everyday things for the most part. Told her the most important thing, didn't I? She had told her mom how much she loved her. But she did also say it often enough back then. Did she make her feel loved every day? Blossom winced as if the thought itself was causing her physical pain. Much as she told herself she could have somehow saved her mom back then, if she had been wiser, there was nothing else she could have done. And she made herself feel guilty because the guilt was easier to bear than the truth. There was nothing Blossom could have done to prevent it, that she may again not be able to save loved ones in the future. Was she truly powerless against the hands of fate? Would she not be able to save them? It still matters that I try. Blossom's gaze traveled down the garden path to the spot underneath the apple tree. There she had sat with Moth and looked at her bruised fingers, and listened to his trembling voice as he tried to tell her how he got them. The time it had driven her mad with injustice, it still did. There was nothing she could do as a scrappy teen other than watching and listening helplessly as her friend got hurt. But Moth had said something funny back then. You being angry on my behalf already makes it better. She'd cared, perhaps that had done its part to eventually make him stand up for himself. Club was the only weapon she had. She would wield it furiously and unyieldingly. She had to. Because it was always about love. It was always about people. Realizing this was so much with so much conviction soothed her somewhat, and her tears stopped flowing. She had stripped away guilt and fear, and what was left now was grief and a passion that burned brightly in her heart. What was grief if not a form of love? Suddenly its shape and meaning looked so familiar, like a friend. The grief she had felt all those years ago now transformed. She wouldn't be able to bear it. She would allow it to continue changing. There were still many people she cared about, right in this moment. She decided she would get up the next morning and see them. Breathing in the air of the garden one last time, Blossom headed back inside. Out from the damp chill of the night, to where it was warm and dry and silent, without looking back. She heard each of her own footsteps so clearly, even every creaking step on the wooden stairs, while she returned to her bedroom. It was real, physical. She was still there despite everything. As she dozed off to sleep, she decided she would bake an apple pie on the next day. Oh, the end. That was honestly pretty sad. Um, Good story. It was a really good story. Um, I enjoyed this. It's you really do wish that people that you've lost in the past you could have one final conversation with. There are several people in my life I wish I could do that with, and I like this story as an acknowledgement that, you know, you have to keep moving and keep coping and making things work. Um, yeah, I enjoyed this game. Um, yeah. Link to this game can be found down there in the description down below. Um, if you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe, ring that bell, and I will see you all next time. Peace.